Democrats use Biden as a pawn to gain the White House. Biden's cognitive ability in decline questioned. Democratic hypocrisy regarding Trump's mental qualifications for presidency. You are listening to episode 2 of the Podfather Show. Democrats latch on to Joe Biden, hoping to regain the White House back in the 2020 election. It's no secret that Obama during his presidency was loved by Democrats. And with Joe Biden having been the vice president during the Obama presidency, Democrats naturally assume and want to play on the fact that Joe Biden may be able to carry over some of that love and favoritism or being favored from the Democratic followers and possibly win the election for 2020. Joe Biden has been in the spotlight a lot lately, however, because of his possible cognitive decline. A lot of the videos and interviews have been recorded and have captured Biden stammering around with his words, losing his train of thought, becoming frustrated, apparently with himself because of being lost in his thought, not being able to find the right words. And even some personality changes, the way he isn't always there, so to speak. All of these are signs of dementia itself as a whole. They're all symptoms of dementia, whether it be early onset or progressed. But they're all symptoms of dementia. Joe, over the last several months, more apparently over the last several months, but over the last several years, we've all seen Joe Biden change as a person. But it's gotten worse a lot more quickly here recently in the last few months, maybe because he's in the spotlight more anyway because of the presidency and we're all watching this. We can see it now. But maybe too, because there is some significant cognitive decline there. And Joe Biden is definitely rather. I mean, I'm not passing a diagnosis. I'm not a doctor by any means. I don't even play one on TV. But Joe Biden, I mean, if he is suffering from dementia, regardless of what stage, if he is suffering from dementia, I mean, that would explain a lot of the things that we're seeing. But dementia aside, we are indeed witnessing some type of cognitive problem here with Joe Biden. We've all seen it. Even if you're a strong Democratic supporter and you want to look the other way, you don't want to see these things, you don't want to believe them, you know they're there. It can't be denied. From, his losing his train of thoughts and stammering around with his words, with the, the thing.
Have you been tested for some degree of cognitive decline?
I've been tested and I'm constantly tested. Look. All I got to do is watch me, and I can hardly wait to compare my cognitive capability to the cognitive capability of the man I'm running against.
So even Joe Biden has admitted that he's constantly being tested for his cognitive ability or his cognitive aptitude. We'll get to that more here in a little bit. But a prime example of we actually have an audio snippet here of a prime example of Joe Biden losing his train of thought and stumbling around words that were clearly prepared for in advance, kind of thought out in advance as part of a speech, but then having lost that and putting in filler words, which is something that's common with dementia. We have that here.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
You know the thing. It's sad. I'm not making fun of Joe Biden. Actually, I think that's kind of tacky. I'm honestly more concerned, for his well-being. I mean, yes, I tend to lean heavily towards the conservative side and vote Republican. But, and despite Joe Biden being, the Democratic, candidate for presidency, he's still a human being. He's still, somebody's husband, somebody's dad, somebody's best friend. And to see him in this situation, it's got to be stressful for him. I mean, the president of the United States, we see how much a president ages in 4 years. So we know it's a stressful job for them. So to be under that kind of stress and be suffering from cognitive decline and possible dementia while under that kind of stress has got to be a tremendous workload on his mind, which would cause him even more stress than, just being, an elderly man that's suffering from dementia. I could not begin to even imagine, what's going on in his mind, but from time to time, we do see a better side of Joe, a shadow of the man that Joe once was. In some of his speeches, we'll see him and he sounds fine. Some of the times, especially if you watch it in video, you can see where there's a little bit of struggle there, where there's tremendous effort being put forth for him to come to that level of clarity in the way he speaks. You can definitely tell that there's effort and he's trying to get to that point, but he can't accomplish it. And so I can't help but to think maybe, he's being heavily medicated for those, few minutes or for that episode, for that duration, for the purpose of getting that speech recorded. And maybe that's what's helping him come to that level of clarity, that you and I all know. Joe Biden, as you heard there a second ago, he had stated that he gets tested regularly for his cognitive ability. Let's play that again.
You've been tested for some degree of cognitive decline.
I've been tested and I'm constantly tested. Look, all I got to do is
constantly tested. Somebody that's healthy and doesn't have cognitive issues or is known to have cognitive issues or has not been diagnosed with dementia has no need to be tested constantly. I don't know if that's exactly what he meant. Maybe that was a prime example of him finding filler words. Maybe that was his prime example of being frustrated and not being able to have the right words to reply or rebuttal that question with. And so instead, he came back with what he believed to be a witty reply, to strengthen, his credential. But either way, that would still be evidence of possible dementia there. And if you look online, which I have before the show, part of the research for the show, I looked up a lot of these things actually, so that I would have some good information for you. But what I'm wondering is why the Democrats aren't trying to nix all of these rumors about dementia and cognitive decline and settle the score, so to speak. Why aren't they releasing new doctor's reports, doctor's visits, and making them public? Back in 2019, December 2019, we actually have if you see this podcast on YouTube, we'll actually have a link to these documents in the description. But there was a 3-page report released by, I guess, his medical staff, his doctor, that summarized his current state of condition and health and, quote, well-being. But the doctor for Joe Biden at that time had stated that, granted, at the time of this podcast recording, this was like 264 days ago, nearly a year ago, that Joe Biden was healthy and vigorous. Now, I delved into this a little bit, looking into these websites and seeing if I could find more about this. And what I discovered is that this report, first of all, it is old. It's not, even though it shows up in new searches and stuff, and it's still being used to this day. This is almost a year old, people. This medical report was done back in December of 2019. It doesn't sound like that, that long ago, but this is September, so, I mean, 263, 264 days ago. I mean, so, it's approaching a year, a little over 3 months away from being a year old. And if you have dementia and it's progressing, a year is an extremely long time. Dementia is an aggressively and quickly deteriorating disease. I mean, it will destroy your mind faster than Midwest weather. I mean, it's crazy how fast this acts on you. But this article, so I found some links to this article, and one good example was the NBC website. When I Googled this term, Joe Biden's medical reports for 2020, there wasn't any recent reports released that show any new medical reports or findings or anything to substantiate, that Joe is indeed a healthy, vibrant, and mentally capable person. But there is a link, in the Google search on the first page that led to an NBC page, which says up at the top, updated September 4th, 2020 at 7:03 p.m. And then it says the latest political news and analysis from the campaign trail. Now, first glance, that leads you to believe that the article that you're about to read is new information. It's new news. But in really small print, just below the heading, it actually says 263 days ago, 4:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when this article was originally released. There is no reason to repost an old article about, presidential hopeful Joe Biden's medical reports in a 2020 article when the only update on this page, even though it says updated September 4th, the only update on this page is where it says, quote, the latest political news and analysis from the campaign trail, end quote. That's the update. That is the update. Now, there's new posts that are available, but they're not shown on this page. You actually have to click a button that says see new post to be taken to another page that opens to show you the new updated information. So it's clearly an illusion tactic to make people, to manipulate the findings and to make people believe that this is a new news report, even though it isn't. I mean, it's actually very old. And I think it's trickery on behalf of NBC to do something like this. And if you'd like to see this link, again, this is a link that I've put underneath the resource section in the description area of the YouTube video that we will upload for this podcast. All of the resources, information, websites, and things like that. There will be resource links for all of those available in the description area. So I was curious if there was any new articles out there about Joe Biden's health, and I myself could not personally find any. There weren't any available. This was the newest bit of information. What I did find, however, though, is there are doctors that are talking about Joe Biden's health. And, but I wanted to point out first that Joe Biden's doctor that made this statement about Joe Biden being, quote, healthy and vigorous, end quote, is a family practice doctor whom received his education from a school which specializes in osteopathic medicine. Now, osteopathic medicine is actually defined, I looked this up so I could get it right. It's defined as an alternative medicine which specializes in bone and muscle tissues. Now, I'm not saying that this doctor isn't qualified to speak on the cognitive health of Joe Biden. But what I am saying is this doctor's own website doesn't indicate that he is a specialist in that field. And yet all of the news reports that are linking to Joe Biden's health and Joe Biden's medical records and quoting things are all from a doctor that apparently, from what I can find, doesn't specialize in that field. He's a bone and tissue doctor, not a mental health specialist. What I did find, though, is doctors that are mental health specialists. One of them specifically, which his name is Dr. Ronny Jackson, on the other hand, has stated that he fully believes that Biden is declining in his cognitive ability. But what is special about Dr. Ronny Jackson is that it's important to note that Dr. Ronny Jackson was Obama's doctor prior to Obama's presidency, I believe for 22 years, I think it was. So Dr. Ronny Jackson was a close doctor to Biden or to Obama, knew of Biden, had seen Biden up close and personal. And Biden had some very fond things to say about Dr. Ronny Jackson, which adds to his credibility. He had actually graciously praised Dr. Ronny Jackson in his expertise back in 2016, saying that Dr. Ronny Jackson has quote, my complete trust, Obama's complete trust. And he was very fond of him. Obama had indicated that Dr. Ronny Jackson had cared not only for Obama, but his family. I mean, so Obama even trusted this doctor to care for his own family. So he was obviously very fond of him. He had went on record to say these wonderful things about him. And then this doctor here he's more of a specialist in mental faculties in that area. And he has he is actually very alarmed. We have a recording of him here in a second, but he's very alarmed in the prospect of Biden becoming the next president of the United States. In fact, let's go ahead and play one of these episodes here, or one of these sound bites here. So this is Dr. Ronny Jackson.
I'm not comfortable with him being my president. I mean, you got to look at what's going on here. I don't know what's going on. He's obviously, I think he's got some cognitive issues. I'm not going to, as a physician who's never, examined him, I'm not going to make a diagnosis, but
Sure.
As a concerned American who also just happens to be a physician, I'm just going to say that, it's concerning to me that he seems to sometimes not be able to complete a sentence and not really know where he's at or what he's doing. And we've seen that countless times now.
That's alarming. So this doctor is very concerned. Now, granted, he's being professional about it. You got to give him credit for that. Unlike a lot of the Democratic doctors and mainstream media doctors who all seem to think that they're qualified to give diagnosis by watching somebody speak on TV, this doctor's not willing to put himself, his reputation, or his credentials on the line in doing that. He's remaining very professional about it. He's taken in what he's seen and given his opinion about it, but without crossing that line and giving a diagnosis without first examining the patient or Joe Biden. I have another excerpt here of Ronny Jackson as well. We need to listen to this.
Well, I'm just seeing Joe Biden lose it. I mean, he is not cognitively there anymore. He does not have the cognitive ability to be our commander-in-chief. It's becoming more and more obvious as each day goes on. He decompensated today when he was asked about it. There was no reason to decompensate like that. But that's what happens when you start having cognitive issues. You get defensive because, you're backed into a corner and you don't fully understand the question, or you can't find the answer, or, the answer that you would like. And you can see that when people have cognitive issues, they get very defensive and they strike out sometimes, and I think that's what's happening. I think that he's in a really bad position right now.
Makes you wonder about.
Okay, there we go. there's another interview where Dr. Ronny Jackson has stated his concerns as a doctor for Biden's ability to function as president of the United States. I need to correct something I had said earlier regarding Dr. Ronny Jackson. Don't want any fact checkers out there saying, that I'm delivering misinformation. So I'm going to fact check myself. That's what we do here. It was actually Dr. David, I believe it's pronounced Scheiner, Scheiner, who was Obama's doctor for 22 years, who had made the reference about Biden, stating that he is not healthy, in obvious contrast to what Joe Biden's previous or current doctor had stated in the previous comment. And that doctor's name is Kevin O'Connor of the GW Faculty Associates. We have a link for his website as well too. But his title is Associate Professor of Medicine and Director of Executive Medicine, and his specialties are primary care. And he's board certified in family medicine. That's the only board certification listed for him is family medicine. So for the Democrats to imply with their smoke and mirrors technique, with the whole, healthy and vigorous statement, that's a true Democratic, trick right there. It's always smoke and mirrors with them. Biden claims, again, as a recap, Biden claims that he is being constantly tested for his cognitive aptitude, as we heard earlier. But my question is why would a person that's healthy and of their full cognitive awareness need to be tested at all? Let alone regularly or constantly, as Biden has said. But why would they need to be tested at all? And with all of these tests that are allegedly taking place, why are there no recent results being released? If these tests are really happening, if Biden truly is, as he had stated with his own words, being tested regularly for his cognitive aptitude, there should be new medical papers out there easily accessible. The Democrats should be throwing them at us to say, hey, look, Biden doesn't have dementia. Here's the proof. Here's the finding. Here's the doctor's reports. They're not doing that. It's not a matter of, HIPAA concerns or privacy concerns. They've thrown his medical records at us before when they finally got a doctor to state that, he's healthy and vigorous. So they've made a precedence for this. So it's not a concern of privacy or medical records or anything like that. It's either it's a lie, he's not being tested regularly or constantly, as he states, or the results of those tests are things that they don't want us to know. And if Biden does have dementia, and there is something that the Democratic Party is hiding from us, I think it's sick that they would put this man through that kind of stress and have him constantly in a position where, he's being stressed out and possibly or potentially even sometimes overly medicated in order to be able to reach those certain levels of awareness that we sometimes hear him in. Where's his wife at when all this is going on? Clearly there's something going on with Biden, whether he has dementia or not, he's obviously in decline. He's in mental decline. That can't be disputed. Where is his wife? Why is she allowing this to take place? Why are his loved ones allowing this to take place? Why is nobody stepping up and saying, enough? You're abusing this man. This is borderline elderly abuse. We need to put a stop to this. It's not worth the presidency of the United States to put an elderly man through this on a daily basis and what could potentially be for the next 4 years. This is just absolutely crazy that they're allowing this to go on. And if he does have dementia, and because of his obvious cognitive decline, it's being speculated that, that's the reason why they're not having the presidential debates as of right now. That's the reason why there hasn't been one yet. Yes, I know there's one scheduled for later this month. But there's some speculation going around, and I kind of agree with this prediction that maybe it's going to come out that, Joe Biden might suddenly become ill or sick, or maybe he has COVID-19 all of a sudden, kind of, enforcing that whole quarantine thing. Let's keep people at home. Oh my gosh, Joe Biden got this. We can all get it now. Use this as an example for us to all stay home, kind of force that whole mail-in balloting thing that the Democrats are pushing. And then they'll use that as their scapegoat to avoid the debates with President Trump, because let's face it, somebody of his cognitive decline or his lack of cognitive awareness, they don't want to put him in front of the camera debating President Trump. That would destroy their hope of the White House. And in my opinion, that makes the Democrats sick, disgusting, vile animals, that they would forego the well-being and care of an elderly man to desperately claw at the presidential seat or the presidential status of being in the White House, so the Democrats can have what they want. They clearly don't care about the well-being of this man. It's sickening. It's absolutely disgusting. I've got to be cutting this short. We're already approaching the time limit for this. But I've got a lot more news, a lot more links to all of the websites and stuff. There's multiple different websites that are using the whole, hide the actual date of these doctors, of the original doctor report and everything, make them real small or unnoticeable. I got links to those. Some of the websites that are guilty of this is, The Guardian, US News. But go ahead for yourself. Google Biden's medical reports and see if you can find anything new. If you can, drop it in the comment section. I would love to know about it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that after hours of research, we can't find anything new that indicates that there's new medical reports available showing that Biden truly is mentally healthy and vigorous. Yeah, and instead of using the whole play on words to kind of throw that illusion out there, yes, he's healthy and vigorous. That's just could be his physical state. It may have absolutely nothing to do with his cognitive ability. I don't know about you guys. I truly am upset about this, which is the reason why I wanted to do this whole podcast to begin with. Is I try to imagine, and have empathy. Is what if Joe Biden were my family member? Even if I was still voting Democrat, if this is my family member, I'd be furious that these people are pushing him like this, and with his clear, declining mental health. I truly think somebody needs to stand up and say something about this and put a stop to it. And you would think that person would be his wife of all people. Maybe they know something, that we don't. Maybe but then again too, maybe they're just desperate for the White House and they'll stop at nothing to get it, which, they've already shown that track record, but that's a whole nother, show, topic for a podcast, but the way they've constantly one false accusation after another against President Trump, his entire campaign, they're doing anything and everything they can to get the Republicans. These people are relentless. It's truly disgusting to watch. I would like to know your guys' thoughts. Granted, yes, we're a Democrat, or we're a Republican leaning podcast. I'm Republican leaning, way more Republican leaning than Democrat leaning. As I've stated before, I'll vote for anyone that I feel is willing to uphold the Constitution. Just so happens that more often than not, that's the Republicans and not the Democrats. But I want to know your guys' thoughts. Take the Democrat and Republican thing out of the picture for a minute. What are your thoughts about Joe Biden's health and the way the Democrats are using him as a pawn to gain the White House? Drop me a comment in the comment sections on any of our various platforms. We're on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and YouTube now. I'll try to interact as I can as I see your guys' comments. One thing I want to leave you with a thought. If Joe Biden does win the election and it's later proven that, or confessed, or it comes out, or it's revealed that he does have dementia and he's not mentally fit to be president, where does that leave us as Americans, as a country? Well, with Kamala Harris being his running mate, sadly to say, that means that she would be the one to step up and fill that position. And if I'm correct, I think Nancy Pelosi moves in behind her to take her seat, but Kamala Harris would be the one, the same lady who says that these rioters should not stop. They should not have to stop, and they should continue with their lawlessness. But that's going to be in the next episode of the Podfather Show. I'll leave you with that thought, and this is the end of episode 2 of the Podfather Show. Thank you for listening.